Hi, pretty little lifters. Today I'm joined by Pilates instructor, actor, and filmmaker Ester Mira. I met Esther when I started going to Evoken Studio for Pilates, and I remember taking her class and thinking that she had such a calming vibe, and I could tell she was passionate about what she did and she was very skilled at it. We started chatting outside of class, and it was fun to connect with her while we checked out new Pilates studios or vented about women's health issues and access. And we were chatting one day and we both started venting about endometriosis and thought it'd be nice to get on here and talk about this topic on a podcast episode so we could share her experience, and we just wanted other women to not feel so alone. So I'm excited for you to hear this conversation. And now let's welcome Esther to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Esther.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
All right. So I would love it if you could give us a brief intro of who you are and what you are currently up to professionally and personally, anything you'd like to share.
Sure. So my name is Ester Mira. I am a Pilates instructor in Los Angeles. I've been teaching Pilates for quite a while now. I love teaching. And then personally, I actually am also in the entertainment industry. I'm an actor and a producer. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Love it. Love it. So how did you get into fitness and teaching Pilates? That's how I met you. So I met you at Evoken. I loved taking your class. And so I need to know, like, has being active always been a part of your life? Like, how did you get into this?
Yes, being active has always been a part of my life. I actually was a professional dancer. I've been dancing since, goodness, I think the age of like 4 or 5.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
a professional dancer. Yeah, I was a dancer. And then I was really badly injured in a car accident. And so that reintroduced me to Pilates.
Wow.
And that's how I became an instructor. I had been teaching before. I taught dance for a very long time. I do classical Indian dance, which is a little bit different than a lot of people. So I've been dancing classical Indian dance since I was really, really little. Was dancing then through high school, through college, and then my master's was more acting. So I did an MFA in acting, did some physical theater. That's where I was introduced more to classical Pilates, and then did more professional dancing once I was out of school. Then was injured in a car accident and, had to go through PT, did water therapy. And then my friend was like, hey, come do some reformer Pilates with me. And I was like, okay. And it really is true. The restorative properties of Pilates is amazing, and fell in love with it again and was like, hey, let's get back into it. And then started teaching. So
wow.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because you're the second person that I've spoken to that have said that Pilates was kind of their, like, them getting into Pilates was either because of an injury or some type of rehab. And it's really helped them.
Yeah. So, Pilates is over 100 years old. And when Joseph Pilates, I joke, I say my good friend Joe, obviously I never met him. He passed away in the 60s. But when he came to New York, when he went to New York and moved to New York in the 20s, dancers were some of the main people that were his clients, right? So some of the most famous dancers for rehabilitation and other stuff. So it's always been very intertwined with dance. Of course, there's all different types of people that take Pilates now and did back then too, but it's been very intertwined with dance. And I did first do Pilates and did my first certs when I was a dancer still. So I think it's amazing. I think it's great for people. I have lots of clients, especially some of my privates, that are people that are in rehabilitation and going through rehab because of the different properties of it. But to truly, I think, be a good instructor, you need to know the body. You need to know your anatomy, right? Because if you don't, how can you really help someone? And that's true with anything of fitness and any part of fitness in the fitness industry, which you know, because you're an educator, instructor as well.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because when I really started doing Pilates, there was a period in the last couple of years where I was having some back issues, and really being able to slow down, work on stability, balance, and my core. I totally saw a difference in how my back was feeling. And I was like, okay, I get it. Like, this is, I can see why this could be a good prescription, and sometimes even PTs will recommend it to, their clients.
Or doctors, pain management. Yeah, very much so, because part of my injury in my car accident was my lower back. And so it was very, very important for me to focus on my core, getting that strength back, and not doing heavy lifting or heavy weights or anything like that to keep that strain. I had to get rid of that strain on my low back, and Pilates, of course, is so much core focus that it was really, really helpful.
Yeah. So you and I, one thing I love is that we will always like text or DM each other about like new classes, new studios we want to try, because we live in an area where we are very fortunate and there are so many studios at our fingertips. Like I think somebody was telling me recently that like the area that we're in, kind of like that West Hollywood area, like per block, there's like so many studios, like not just Pilates, but just gyms and fitness.
Everything. Yeah.
So many. But you and I have talked about like with the industry and how it's evolving, like there's so many new things that have popped up. Like I was sharing today that I took a Pilates class that was 15 minutes on a tread. That was like the assault tread where it's powered by you. So 15 minutes of that. Yeah. Then 45 minutes on a reformer. And it was more of like the megaformer style, not the classical, reformer, which is always a little bit more challenging. And you were like, couldn't be me. Like that, you're like, not for me.
No.
But yeah, like what are your kind of thoughts as somebody who teaches more classically? Like, how do you feel about it? Like, what are your faves or thoughts
on that? Yeah, so it's very interesting. There's a lot of talk in the Pilates world right now, kind of more classical versus contemporary. There's a lot of discourse on it right now. And having come from a more classical background and then doing contemporary, so even within the Pilates world, and not even talking about Legree or Mega Reformer or that, or like the more like these fusion classes you're talking about just within Pilates, because you're saying I teach more classical. I actually teach at an athletic or contemporary or whatever you want to call it studio. We have the more newer contemporary reformers. Personally, I just want people to move their bodies. That's how I feel. I want someone to move their body as long as it's safe, right? I have the classical training on the Gratz reformers. Those are the original, kind of more coming from Joseph Pilates' original reformers. At some point, you are going to have to come with me to a true
I want to try it.
Classical class.
Yes.
I know that you've tried my version using the classical repertoire, but it's on a more modern reformer, which I think is cool, though it feels very, very, very different on the actual classic apparatus, right? There's a specific reason, and it's the you go through the classical series, but for me, I really just want people to move their bodies. And I think it's very important to get that understanding and the basis behind why we're doing what we're doing. So there's some, I think, kind of not safe, crazy things out there. But as long as you have an instructor who understands the body, the anatomy, understands safety is first, understands the bodies that they are teaching, and isn't just trying to do the most complicated, difficult thing out there because it's cool or it's Instagrammable or they saw it on Instagram. Yes. Personally, that's what I think that matters, right? Because not everyone's going to have access to classical apparatuses. Not everyone's going to have access to the same thing. And I just want Pilates to be out there for everybody. Pilates is for everybody, right? That's how I feel. So
I love
there
that.
Be certain things that I don't want to do that I don't personally agree with, or I personally don't like, but that does not mean I don't think someone else should do it as long as it's safe and people aren't getting injured. Because unfortunately, I have people coming to my studios that are injured because they went somewhere where the instructor got a 20-hour course over the weekend. Most very good programs are 400, 500, 600 hours, take years, over a year to complete, which, think about, obviously I don't want to compare it to a doctor or something like that, but you don't want to go somewhere where someone doesn't have the understanding and the experience, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's really what it comes down to for me personally. I understand where people, especially with the more classical training, like would feel the way that they feel. I wish that it's not just black and white to me. It's not just this or that. I don't think it's that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you bring up such a good point that like at the end of the day, you're like, I just want people to move and I want this to be accessible. And I think that's really important. And for those of you that aren't aware, like maybe this isn't your algorithm or your feed, but like I see it a lot because obviously I do Pilates and I'm also in the fitness space, but like the discourse I see is wild. Like people are just like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the drama. Let me get my popcorn. Like,
well, and the judgment is what bothers me the most. Is the judgment, and I don't understand it. I obviously, if someone is doing something that's not safe, in a group setting or not. And I've seen wild things on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, that should be called out. That's not okay. But the drama and judgment, especially towards more contemporary athletic stuff, bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people should be judging, especially if it's safe and it's accessible. And this is coming from someone who is classically trained, who did classical training in Moscow. Do you know what I mean? So
Wow.
I hate the drama, the judgment back and forth. I have some people that I really, really respect, and it's left a bad taste in my mouth when I see that the judgment they're giving. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah.
just like, I understand. It's like in other forms of dance and ballet and stuff, where you've got the classical ballet, and then you've got, these different forms coming out. Or like when modern dance first came out, people were like, what is
Yeah.
this? This isn't dance. That's not true. It's not true. Everyone's gonna have what they like, and it's just things are evolving. I mean,
Yeah.
even my good friend Joe, I like to joke about Joseph Pilates, it was contrology, right? That's what it was called, and then he evolved it as he was alive. So who knows what he would like if he was alive today? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he would think that this class that you took, that was treadmill and reform or mega reformer, he might necessarily not be rolling over in his grave. Maybe he would. Who
Yeah.
knows? We don't know. But I just,
Yeah.
as long as it's safe, I would say don't knock it until you try it. I would not try
Yeah.
it because I hate running. So that would not be something that I would, absolutely not. But for someone like you, who, with the things that you do in your fitness, that is something, like you were saying to me before we started,
Yeah.
you like to put some cardio aspects, and you already lift 3 times a week. So this is something where you can continue with your Pilates, but then also get the running
Yeah.
aspect in, right? As
Yeah.
long as it's safe and the instructor knows what they're doing. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but I
No, but
unfortunately
it's
have
true.
I've
Yeah.
taken classes that are more purely Pilates, not classical, because if you are doing the actual classical Pilates, those people know what they're doing. But unfortunately, there
Yeah.
are studios that claim that they're Pilates, and yes, you're on a reformer, and it's not a mega reformer, because that's not a reformer. It's specifically, they say at Legree, because it's not Pilates, but
Yeah.
these are people that claim they're Pilates instructors, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know even just the basics. They'll say the wrong part of the body, and I'm just like, no. That's where
Yeah.
I draw the line, is when someone is not teaching something correctly, and it will injure somebody.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, like kind of how you were mentioning with me, like cardio is something that I want to do once a week. And for those of you, Esther and I were talking off camera, and I was telling her, I was like, I usually on Sundays do Barry's boot camp because I want to run. I don't necessarily want to do the weightlifting part again because I've already lifted heavy 3 days. So sometimes I do feel like I'm pretty tired when I get to that Sunday, and I'm like, I'm here for the running, but like I also have to do this stuff. So that's why I thought, oh, this class could be interesting for me because my priority is the running, and I also like, Pilates. But it is a little bit challenging because, as we were saying, like the reformers are different and the instruction is different. And I have noticed personally, like what complements my training best is a little bit more of the contemporary classic Pilates, because I'm doing things differently than I do in my weight training. Because I notice when I do more of like the Legree style, like it's a lot of stuff that I do in my weight training, but just on a reformer. Like I'm doing, like today we did a lot of squats, we did a lot of lunges, and I'm like, oh, I do that all the
You already do
time.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already do
Yeah.
that all the time. So like I am looking for a lot of those cool stability movements, like all these different like things that I do in your class that are just like a little bit different because I already do all these other things. So I think like for
Yeah.
anybody listening, that could be something that you have to ask yourself, like what is your intention when you are looking for these type of classes, because I think that can kind of dictate. And so for me, because before I was doing more Legree style, like once, twice a week with my weight training, but then I was noticing I was getting a little burnt out. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm doing a lot of the
The
similar
similar
movement
stuff. Yeah.
patterns. Yeah.
Well, and we talk about, and you and I have talked about, because your educational background and what you do is strength training, is that, and I don't have as much experience with that, is these complement each other, right?
Yes.
You want to have these things complement Pilates with cardio, with strength training, with yoga, right? You don't want
Yeah.
to just burn yourself out with 7 days, 5 days, or 6 days and a rest day of just strength training, of just, burning those muscles out. And I mean, at least that's how I feel. And we know as we get older, especially as women, you need to implement actual strength training with weights. And I will die on my hill saying that Pilates is not the same as strength training, or is not the same as classic strength training. You want to add Pilates in to whatever you're doing, but you do want to be actually like lifting weights.
Yeah.
And I'm not a doctor, but I've had my doctors tell me this, specifically me with certain autoimmune and stuff that I have going on, but every woman should be doing this. And I know I get that you've told me this, and other PTs, other doctors, like MDs have told me this, that Pilates, strength training, yoga, cardio, all they work beautifully together. And it's about moving your body, right? And getting all parts of your body moving in the different things you need to do.
Yeah, definitely. And for anybody listening who maybe hasn't heard this episode, I did a 3-month Pilates experiment. And if you need to listen to it, I would definitely do it. It's season 6, episode 11 of the podcast. And to give you a brief overview of what I did, I was seeing a lot of women, and maybe you had seen this too, Esther, who said that they stopped weight training and they just got snatched doing Pilates. So they're like, I totally stopped lifting. I just got snatched doing Pilates. So I kind of wanted to do an experiment and do a version of that experiment for myself. And I remember when I was doing this, I, had chatted with you about it because I was like, I'm going to talk to a Pilates pro about it. And the thing I loved about talking to you was like, you weren't defensive about Pilates, because some people I noticed when I was talking about this online, Pilates instructors got very defensive. And I was like, wait a minute. If you understand movement principles and the 6 components of health-related fitness, you know that there are different categories. We have muscular strength, we have muscular endurance, we have power. And if you understand that, you know where these categories fall. Because guess what? I'm not going to get my flexibility from lifting weights. I have to do something else.
The complete opposite. Yeah, complete opposite. I have so many weightlifters and people, who have such tight hamstrings, who have, who need that. You're not going to get that from lifting heavy weights at all.
Yeah. And I love that you even mentioned it now. Like, you were, as a Pilates instructor, you were like, I need to start lifting more weights, because it's good for you and it is different, and so it is such a beautiful combination of like strength training and finding all of these components. Like, I do Pilates once a week, and I think it's just such a great addition to like a well-rounded program.
They complement.
They complement each other so well. It's so funny because you were so kind and you invited me you were doing like an intermediate advanced Pilates class. And that was the hardest. And that was classical. It was the hardest class I've ever taken. And I was like, I was so humbled. And I think I was struggling the most in the class, but I was like, we're going to power through it. We're going to make it happen. But it was so hard. And it really did show me, wow, like this can be taken to a different level. And I'm so used to being in one spot. And like, it was really, really hard.
Yeah. And that's why I believe that the actual classical Pilates comes from contrology, that they say, that Joseph's students did, that have transformed with Romana, with Fletcher, so were some of his disciples, like, is so hard and so important, which is why I want you to come with me. We'll talk probably off camera. Yes. I can even say, if people are interested, some of those studios in LA, very few studios that actually have the classical apparatuses. I wish there were more that it will be even harder because the reformers are different. Yeah. And it's more than just a reformer, and people don't understand that, right? If you go to a true classical studio, you're not going to just have a reformer. You're going to have the ladder barrel. You're going to have the chair. You're going to have the electric chair. You're going to have the Cadillac, which is my favorite apparatus, which we do have at Evoken, which you have to play with me on at some point. Yeah. And that's that it's just, there's so many different apparatuses you use, and it is so challenging. And when you took that class with me, and yes, we were doing it, full disclosure, we were doing it on a contemporary reformer, a more, which are my balanced body, shout out my favorite. I love balanced body reformers as more contemporary, but there are people that will argue you can't do classical stuff on it. I don't believe that, because we didn't have access to a classical reformer. And you said it was still challenging. It will feel different just because the reformers are different. The springs are different. The way that the ropes are different, but it is still very challenging. And then you'll see when you take a contemporary or more athletic or whatever people want to call it, people even argue about, should it even be called Pilates, whatever, I don't want to get into that, just part of the discourse, but you'll see, oh, this is where this move came from. Oh, this is similar. But I do feel in the true like essence of classical Pilates, you really feel the different parts of your muscles and you understand why. Yeah.
Totally.
And I love, I mean, I think everyone should take a true classical class. Absolutely. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah.
And I do notice a difference, like, like I've taken your class and obviously you are a master teacher, but like I've taken your class and like just.
I'm not, definitely not a master.
I mean, to me you are, but like, I think like, just even hearing you, the cues you give when you name body parts and like different thing and muscles and like what you should be feeling, like it does feel different. And that's another cue too, as somebody in fitness. And like, that's what I'm listening for. I'm like, ooh, yeah, they definitely know what they're talking about.
I mean, that's the worst thing is going to a class and someone not being able to cue correctly. And that's to me where I distinguish between an instructor that knows what they're doing and an instructor that doesn't, or also if they've gone to a good program, right? And a good certification, or even there, because back in the day you would apprentice with people, right? You would apprentice. Weren't these certification programs.
I think
right?
that's the missing piece, like that apprenticeship. Because like even with like teachers, like to get my teacher credentialing, I had to do student teaching. I had a mentor teacher. I would give lessons. They would watch me. They would give me feedback, and it's like it is so important in every field,
Yeah. So like I'm like, oh, I'm not a master trainer because I've not been teaching. I've been teaching for quite a while, but I've not been teaching like 30 plus years, obviously. But my master trainers, apprenticing and getting that knowledge, because when you start teaching, you're not going to be a master the first 5 years. I mean, I've been teaching for a very long time because I taught dance first and then Pilates. So I'm still learning. I still mess up. I forget to do one side sometimes when I teach. It's a whole joke. I still do this like left, right. You know what I mean? It's and the more you're able to practice and learn from somebody that you've worked with, I think even the better. And so for me, it's the people that I take from them. I'm like, oh, they did a really good certification, or they had a really great master trainer or apprentice somewhere. And it's the people that I can tell that I'm like, oh, they did an online class for a weekend. Or they did 100%. A weekend course because they do not know what they're saying, or where are they even coming up with, this is not the body part you should be activating or feeling, and it takes me out, because the thing is, it's like, I'm constantly doing more search or more programs, or this coming week, I'm going to be doing a really great, it's going to be online. It's virtual, but I'm really excited with someone who is more classical that I'm really looking forward to on Tuesday.
So fun.
It's going to be like kind of teaching advanced instructors on how to teach more beginner clients, which I love, because where I teach right now, my main studio, Evoken, which we mentioned, which I love, shout out Evoken, are for the most part more advanced clients, right? So you can do more advanced stuff. Of course, for me, if I'm teaching, more advanced bodies that I know, and somebody who I don't know who's more beginner comes in, I'm someone who I'm more hands-on. I'm not going to have the class come down, but I'm all about progressions, modifications. I want everyone to feel comfortable and have a good time. So I'm not just going to keep going through doing these super complex things. If I have people coming in that don't know that, a lot of instructors don't do that though. A lot of instructors don't do that. And so because I don't have very many beginner people coming in, I want to be reminded of,
I think that's great.
Going back to the fundamentals, we do have a great fundamental class at Evoken. And I think that, a lot of places should have that. I do appreciate studios that do have leveled classes. I think that's helpful, because even with me, when I taught that intermediate advanced class at Evoken, which we'll be bringing back hopefully in the new year, there were once or twice, because it was a very popular class, but once or twice I would have someone who would come in the class and it did say had to have my approval for it. And that was very hard. That was hard, because as much as what I love about classical is you do teach the body in front of you. You don't have to go through the specific kind of sequencing with that class in particular, because I had people working with me that some of them I'd been working with for years. Everyone was very advanced in that class and had been working with me and working up. So I was going through more of the advanced sequencing. That was hard, because I knew everyone in the class, and you have one person. Very rarely this happened. didn't know what they were doing, who didn't know anything about kind of the classical series sequencing. So that was hard. But in terms
Yeah.
of just other classes, all the other classes we teach, yes, we are just happen to be a more well-known studio, be advanced. You can modify
Yeah.
things. And this is not to say you absolutely can modify for classical, but that specific class was an advanced classical class for a reason. And that's what everybody was expecting. And it was, it was only for members and like class pack holders. People on class pass couldn't do that one
Yeah.
class for that reason. Just sometimes someone would slip under.
Yeah. No,
would slip under the
definitely.
radar.
No,
Yeah.
I totally get that. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and
Of course. Yeah.
you and no, I was like, we can talk forever on this topic because I know we do. But you and I have had talks about women's health, and we've shared our own experiences. And one of the topics we've talked about is endometriosis. And for anyone listening who isn't familiar with what endometriosis is, it is a chronic condition in which tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus, and it can cause severe pain in the pelvis, and it can make it harder to get pregnant. It can start as early as somebody's first menstrual period and
even before.
or even before, and then until menopause, and it can lead to inflammation, scar tissue forming in the pelvic region. And this can be anywhere,
elsewhere too. Yeah.
Ovaries, rectum, bladder, fallopian tubes, and elsewhere in the body. And unfortunately, the cause of endometriosis is still unknown, and there's no way we can't prevent it. And there's definitely needs to be more research because there is no known cure, and its symptoms can be sort of treated with medicines, in some case surgery,
but not really.
Yeah. Let's that was kind of just in a nutshell for anybody who doesn't know what it is, but let's chat about your experience with endometriosis and including when the symptoms started for you, and what has this process been now, managing it, and feel free to share what you're comfortable with.
I mean, I could also talk about just women's health in general and how we are ignored in general with anything we have going on. Anyone can judge me with this, but if endometriosis was something that men were going through, we would absolutely know a lot more about it.
We would have a treatment. We'd have a cure.
Yes, we'd have a cure. So I do have endometriosis. I was diagnosed with it. So I got my period when I was 12, and I had horrible periods. We're talking about such heavy bleeding. We're talking about so much pain that I wasn't able to get out of bed and go to school. I was not diagnosed with endometriosis, I think, until I was 16 or 17. So we're talking about, that many years of being in so much pain.
As a teenager too.
Yeah. Going to doctor after doctor. My mom would take me. My parents are incredible. My mom, such a supporter of me and everything I do, and being told time and time again, it's in my head. This is normal. This is normal. This is normal. And I'm 43 now. So this is even before, this is what's so sad. I'm 43 now, and I read forums now of young women, young people. And I'm saying young people because obviously trans people, non-binary people. So young people now going through this, and it sounds exactly the same as when I went through this. I'm horrible at math, but you can do the math however many years ago when I was that age. That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Where has the progress been? It's crazy.
Where has the progress gone? Yeah. And the reason why I'm saying even people that had before, I don't even know how they figure out before you've gotten your period, but and I might be wrong here. So please, because it's been so long for me. Yeah. But I feel like the specialist that I finally saw at Children's, I'm from outside of Boston, so Children's Hospital. I simply remember him telling me his youngest client was 10 or something like that and hadn't gotten their period. But I'm honestly not sure how you would know that, because it is related to your period. And then, so endometriosis, originally, they thought it was people around menopause. They thought that that's how they found it. They did not think young people got it. So we went to so many specialists, so many doctors, told time and time again, it's in her head. She just doesn't want to go to school. Not that it should make a difference, whether a kid is a good student or not. But I was a straight A student. I did want to go to school, but that shouldn't be a reason or a cause, right? Let's say it's a kid who isn't doing well in school. That doesn't matter, right? It does not matter. But for me personally, my experience, that's what they would use. They'd say, it's just in her head. She's fine. Just give her pain meds. And my mom's like, no, this is not normal. I know this is not normal for my daughter. No child, their periods should not be like this. She's cannot get out of bed. She's going through so many pads. Her periods are so heavy. And then it finally, the way we figured out, thanks to this nurse practitioner, this nurse, I was going for a physical, and she's like, is there anything, they help you out in the beginning? Is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to tell me? And I said, well, my periods, like they're awful. And she was like, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And she's like, you know what? This sounds like, and I have no idea to this day. Unfortunately, I can't remember her name. I wish I did, but I have no idea to this day if she personally had experience with it or patients with it. But she said it sounds like it could be endometriosis. I want you to
Wow.
see this specialist over at Children's. And she talked to my mom about it because, like I said, I was 16 or 17 at the
Yeah.
time. So we went to the specialist at Children's, and same as now, the only way is, you can do a ultrasound, but the only thing you can have is a laparoscopy, which is a surgery, which
Yep.
lo and behold, because Tiffany and I are talking about this, same thing you do now, which is a surgery you have. They take a little camera, and I had three tiny incisions. They went through my belly button and then kind of like by my pelvic bone, and they put a little camera in and they look around like in images, and then they'll take a little laser thing and they'll laser off. Depending on, there's like 4 different stages, and of course they can laser stuff off. They see where it is, and of course the most extreme would be hysterectomy or whatever you need to do, depending on how bad.
Yeah.
And so we had that done, and I think and the other thing too is you could be stage 1 or 2 and have excruciatingly bad pain. And then you could
Wow.
be, I think normally if you have a higher stage, you'd feel it, but maybe not. So I think that I was like stage 2 or between stage 2 and 3. So they did that. And then that was that. And then there's different things you can do in terms of, birth control or other stuff. And so he put me on birth control. So I wasn't sexually active yet. You know what? I was 16, because soon after that, I did actually start having sex with my boyfriend at the time. And
Yeah.
so I was already on birth control. So I didn't have to have the talk with my mom. He's
Yeah.
super chill, but didn't have to have the talk. Oh, now you need to go on birth control. So I think that's why I went on birth control, and then kind of worked out. Right. Yeah. So since then, I've been on so many different types of meds,
Wow.
forms of birth control to try to help it. I've had 3 laparoscopies
Oh
pretty
my
much every
gosh.
10 years. And yeah,
That's
right
wild.
now, and we've talked about how right now I'm not on birth control because we're trying to figure out, in terms of, my husband and I aren't, thinking about just in terms of like where my hormones are, if kids are still possible, all of that. But in order to figure out if IVF or anything like that is possible, and especially when you're getting a little bit older, they have to measure your hormones. Currently, for the past however many years, I was on a low estrogen birth control and I didn't take the placebo. So I was going straight through. That's going
Yeah.
to make your levels all off when they're trying to do any type of testing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm having ridiculous pain. I have for about the last year,
Oh
insanely heavy. So it has not
God.
changed. It has
That
not changed for me. So think about
sucks.
that. Think
Even
about
with the
that
3
I,
surgeries, like, that's
yeah,
crazy.
nothing. No.
Mhm.
And each surgery still seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not gotten better. And some of the different medications I was on, I did, and this is what's crazy. So when I was in college, I remember this because just thinking about health insurance and stuff and how horrible and crazy that's gotten.
Yeah.
I think some people remember, and I don't even know if people do it anymore, but Depo Provera, right? The
Oh,
shot.
yeah, the shot. Uh-huh.
I don't even know if people do that now. Like,
I don't know if
I
they
don't
do
know.
it. I know is it still available? I mean, I
I don't
think
know,
so,
but
right? I don't
there
know.
was another shot called Depo Lupron,
Mhm.
totally off the market now. And I know this now. I do so much research for myself. I'm very sensitive to a lot of meds, just the way my body is. And so I always do super research because I tend to have really bad reactions to stuff,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I also would love to more go, I wish I could go more holistic route, but there are some medications I do have to be on because of my
Yeah.
different autoimmune stuff. But Depo-Lupron, which most people don't know about, and I should have done like more research before I came on, but it was what my specialist at the time put me on. And doing research, apparently you weren't supposed to be on it more than like 6 months at a time. I was on it throughout college.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was also $1,500 or $2,000 a shot if you didn't have
Oh
insurance.
my gosh,
I
that
had
is
insurance, of course. I was very lucky.
wild.
I've always had insurance. I've been very,
Yeah.
talk about being very lucky to always have insurance. So think about if
Mhm.
you didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing with people with diabetes and other things like that don't have, it's ridiculous. We could
Yeah.
have a whole other talk about insurance and how horrible our healthcare system and that is in that respect. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was on that for 4 years.
That's
And I remember more
Wild.
recently reading something about how it was something like 6 or 9. You were not supposed, and I would do it I think it was every 3 months,
Yeah.
or every month. I can't remember. And that messed up my hormones so much, caused me to have acne, killed my libido.
Yeah.
So that was one of the more extreme things I was on. I remember at one point being put on a birth control and then something called Prempro, which I think is for women with cancer or something.
Oh, wow.
Didn't do anything. Yeah. Maybe people who are closer in age to us maybe have experience with some of these who have that endo. And I'd love to hear from people like that. If any of these sound familiar
I
to
know.
them,
If
I'd
any
love
of
to,
you guys, yes, we need people to
if you wanna
chime
be like,
in.
yeah, or if anyone's like, no, that's not what that's used for. Even doctors are like, no, you're wrong about that. I would love to know.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is 20 plus years ago. So
That's
I don't really
crazy.
remember. And then finally what we fell on, I think probably in my 30s, was taking birth control straight through. And maybe even now there's maybe a little bit better, but you were telling me for you, it was a laparoscopy is what they said to figure out whether you had it, right?
This is crazy. So it's funny. I started my period when I think it was like in 8th grade. So 13. Yes, 13. I was 13. Yeah. And I was trying to think back. I'm like, did I have painful periods? Like I was trying to remember and like, maybe I did like a little bit like the cramps and stuff, but I don't remember it being anything like really debilitating.
Pain during sex. Sorry, pain during sex.
Yes.
Another
so
one.
I will, yes.
That was, sorry, I was just remembered because for me, yeah, painful periods, but then when I started having sex, horrific pain during sex.
That's crazy. Yeah. So like, I don't, from the age of like 13 to 16, like I don't totally remember like extremely painful periods. Probably just like cramps, right? That's what I remember. Yeah. But then I went on birth control at age 16, not because, I thought I had endometriosis. It was because I was being using it as protection. Yeah. I didn't want to get pregnant. Yeah. I had a boyfriend at the time. So I was being very safe and smart. Yes. And so because I was on the pill, like, there was no symptoms. Like I was just on it for years. Like I was on it from like age 16 to like, I think I took a break at some point in my 20s for like a hot second. And then I went back on it like very soon after until I was like 35. So it wasn't until age 35 that I cycled off of it because I had just, gotten married and I was like, let me just try to not be on. And we weren't trying to get pregnant or anything. It was just like, let's see, try it and give my body a break. And then that's when I started getting really painful. That's when I was like, has the birth control been helping me not have these symptoms? And then as soon as I got off of it, just like you said, painful sex. And just like for me, and this is why, like, I think it took a while to find a doctor who could help me. Like nobody was knowing what was happening. And
same, it's like, how many years later and the same exact thing.
It took a couple years to figure it out. And then I was noticing like when it was the week of my period and I needed to like go to the bathroom, it was so painful. So then I started thinking like, do I have tissue by my rectum? Like perhaps, because it was just so painful. And I started doing research online and it was talking about like pain that different people have. And sometimes people have pain when they go to the bathroom. And I was like, I will never forget. I was talking about this with a friend recently. There was one point I was at the gym and it was in between squats. So we're doing heavy back squats. I finished my set. Everything was fine. And it was the week of my period. And I go to just like sit down on a bench and I felt this pain that I just shot up off the bench. I was like, yes. I was like, oh my God. Yes. And it was just almost like a spasm, and I was just like, whoa, what is happening? So finally I was like, all right, I need to find a doctor who will listen. Like this is uncalled for. Like this is so upsetting. So I saw one person and they were the first people to use the word endometriosis. And they were saying, hey, based on what you're saying, this is what it sounds like. But just exactly what you said, they're like, you have two options, birth control or the surgery. And to me, like I've never had surgery. So it just sounded very extreme, especially because the way I was phrasing it to them, I was like, hey, based off my symptoms, you're telling me this is what it sounds like I have. But also, this is exploratory. So you could find nothing and we could be wrong. And so I was.
But even if you find nothing, you still could have it. That's what's awful about this, right? They could not find anything and you still have it. Mine was towards my rectum. That's where they found mine. And they didn't necessarily see anything. everything, and they had to do, so that's,
Yeah,
I had
because
the same
I
thing with
did
me.
get ultrasound too, and they didn't see anything, and they were
Because you
looking for
wouldn't, because
something
you,
big because I don't think that's where it even is. And so that's why
no.
it was just so frustrating. And then, so I did decide to go back on the pill because I was just, oh, and then I was having like vomiting spells around my period, and it was
Yeah.
awful. Like I would be up from like 2 to 4 in the morning, just puking in the bathroom. And I was like, this is horrific. I was like, this is horrific. This should not be happening to anybody who is, like telling people what's wrong with them. So finally, a friend referred me to another gynecologist, and she was like, you should go back on birth control. And I don't want you to see it as a band-aid. Like this is literally helping your symptoms, because when you're on it, you don't have these symptoms. And until we get more research and more funding and like figure it out, like this is what is helping you feel better. So I went back on it, and things have been fabulous. Like things have been fabulous.
Do you take the placebo, or no, you go straight through?
Because I just don't want a period, and we're
Yeah.
not
No,
trying to have kids. So I was
No,
like,
but that's what it would be anyway, though, right? Because you wouldn't get your period. Because even for me, when they put me on birth control, originally it didn't help. Like, so that's why I didn't take the placebo. I went directly through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
not getting my period, I had no pain.
Yeah. And so for me, I was just like, if it's just the withdrawal bleed anyways, I was like, I don't want it. I was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm ready for no periods anyways. So I was like, let's just speed this up. I was like, I'm totally okay with it. So I'm so grateful to be going that route. And I have checked in with her like, hey, do you think I should, do this surgery? She's just like, I don't, like she's like, you're not trying to get pregnant. You're not trying to like, I just don't know if that's necessary for you to go through with that, especially since exactly what you were saying. It's not a one and done situation,
Mm-mm. No, I mean, but like, how crazy is this, right? So now I'm like kind of thinking about the math. 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 13, or 28 years ago, same exact thing. I mean, that's not okay.
There's no progress.
Okay.
Like this is crazy to me. And I talk about it in my health class with my teen girls because, I know some of them are interested in getting into medicine and healthcare. And I was like, and research. And I was like, you need to get into women's healthcare for research. Like you could pave the way. You could be a forefront person, researcher doing the work that people have neglected, and I just think it would be so important. And it's funny because when I finally started talking about like endometriosis and stuff, even on my stories, people were coming out of the WordWorks and saying, oh my gosh, me too. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone. Like so many people deal with it. It's wild.
The one thing that's different is for me, nobody knew. Like I
feel like yours was pretty early on, like for even somebody to tell you back then. Like
it was one of because we're late 90s. Yeah. So it was very early on.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't, it's just really upsetting, and just really, but when you and I were talking about it, I was like, same symptoms. I was like, I really, I'm no doctor, but it's just really sad and upsetting that it's like, wow, they're telling you to do the same exact thing that they told me, and and it's even like the laparoscopy hasn't changed much. Even ultrasounds, like they've gotten maybe, you can now see like the 3D, when you're pregnant and stuff, it's now 3D. It's not just like a little flat view image, but it's like, wow, this is something that really there needs to be more talk about, more studies on, and there's not. And so many more people have. And then think about all the people that have suffered silently for however long with it.
Exactly.
Especially because it's surrounding periods and, our menstrual cycle and stuff. So really not talked about, because, no, we shouldn't be talking about our reproductive organs and our menstrual cycle or periods. It's like, so of course let's not talk about that.
It's taboo.
And it's, yes, exactly. I was saying, it's taboo.
Yeah. It's so funny that we're talking about this because a friend sent me, and I wish I could remember the country, but it was like 7 advances that are happening in like female healthcare right now that we're excited about. Like that was the topic of it. If I find it, I'll send it to you. But one of them was saying that there is a country that is doing research right now, and they are trying to, there's a new test or something that they're trying to create where you can test period blood for endometriosis. And I was like, that would be a breakthrough. If they can pull that off and make that happen, I mean, so many people's lives would be changed, and hopefully that could pave the way to research treatments.
Research of treatment, like actual treatment for it. Because, you know, the other thing they said is when you're pregnant, right? Of course, when you're pregnant, but it's like, oh yeah, so we're just gonna like push out a ton more babies. Everyone just have no, you know, there's got to be more research of this, and then other, you know, other things that other ailments and things that women have that there's no, you know, nothing is talked about, like PCOS and stuff like that, right? I don't have that, but I have a lot of friends that have that. That's
so many people talking about it now.
People are talking about it, right? That people didn't know about 20, 30, 40 years ago. I have a lot of friends that have it. It's just all these things that it's like, we should not be suffering. We should not be suffering. We should not have to be on birth control straight through. We should not have pain during sex, when we go to the bathroom, have vomiting, and thinking that there's something wrong with us. Right?
Exactly.
And that we should just suffer through it. Oh, pain during sex, we should just have to suffer through that.
Yeah.
No, sex should be pleasurable for us.
It's so crazy too. And it's interesting you mentioned like PCOS too. It's like, these are like endometriosis, PCOS, like so many other different things that like we didn't really hear about and people are talking about. And I do think it's important because now I'm getting into this different phase of my life with like perimenopause, and these things are affecting what kind of treatments I can do, you know, because I have talked to my doctor about like managing perimenopause symptoms, and they're like, hey, but if we get you off this and put you on this, I don't know if that's going to make your symptoms feel better. And like, so it's like, there's a whole different slew of situations now that, you know, when you're trying to now tackle other things like hormonal changes, that is affecting your body too, you know?
I think because millennials, elder millennials especially, are getting to the point of getting into peri. I'm hoping that we are going to have, because you and I briefly talked about these like classes, fitness classes and Pilates classes now playing towards women in menopause, women in peri. And I was like, is this just we really talked, I think I sent you a specific class that was gearing like an online class it was a Pilates class that was gearing towards that. And there's a lot of when is it gimmicky and just like kind of commercial and making money, and when could it actually make a difference? And I sent it to you, since you are more in fitness. I mean, I'm in fitness as well, but I feel like you have a lot more knowledge and stuff about things like that than I do. I just have my own personal experiences, but I do feel with millennials and elder millennials just in general getting to that point, what we're going to see a shift. And I think there is going to be a lot, because there is nothing, barely anything I feel right now on peri, especially perimenopause. The symptoms people have, I talk to my friends that are going through it right now, or people that have gone through it. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, once I've gotten into menopause, great. But peri has been hell for so many people I know. And the symptoms are across the board. So many people have different symptoms and new symptoms are coming up. And a lot of people, unfortunately, think it's just in there. They don't even know that it's a symptom of perimenopause. You know, like they don't even realize, because there's not a lot of stuff on it. And I'm just like, that's another thing where I'm like, like what's going on with us, like, you know, not being able to sleep, or, you know, someone's telling me their ears are really itchy, you know,
oh my God, my ears are so itchy.
my friend just told me that their ears are really, that's a symptom
so
of theirs, that their ears are really itchy.
Oh my gosh. That was literally me yesterday. It was like, don't scratch.
My friend was just talking about that. She was like,
so weird.
But it's, you know, it's one of those things too, is it's like people kind of, you know, trying to gain money or whatever off of people going through perimenopause. But 100%. Is there things that we can do that would actually help, you know? And you being more, you know, we talked about strength training as something that's really, as you get older, you want to be doing, both with men and women, but I think women especially, right? I think you would know this better than me. But other things, like what are other things opposed to just going on hormone therapy, right? Which is often what people will do.
Yeah, for me too, especially like just dialing in the nutrition, because I definitely noticed like, you know, if you're not sleeping well. That sometimes rolls over into like not making as healthy choices in your food choices. And it's like a whole cannibal. Then you don't feel great to work out. Like it's like a whole snowball effect that like, you know, because like I do notice my energy is less. Like me at 42 right now, like 5 years ago, my energy was way different, like way different, you know? So I am very aware of that. But like, you know, as you and I were saying, I really, really hope that we can start putting more resources and research into women's health and a lot of these issues, because I just think women deserve better. And it has been way too long. Like you were saying, like 30 plus years, we're doing the same thing. Like, what is going on? It is 2025, almost 2026. Like, let's get on it.
Yeah. At least more people are being made aware of it.
Yes.
And like when you said, when you would post on your stories and people like, I have that too. And there's more of us now that are saying, okay, this needs to change. And I love that you're telling your kids, like, please go in this field if you're interested in it, so we can know more about it. Right. So you can be that you guys are the ones that are going to be able to say, hey, no, this needs to change.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Because it needs to. And then coming in full circle, coming into fitness, right. And saying how in the different fitness and things that we do with strength training belong with that. How can that help? Right. Because I know for me, I also have, when I move my body, it helps me, you know, as much as the pain is there, but when I'm stagnant and I'm not doing anything, I also have fibromyalgia, which we discovered when I could not move after my car accident. I was in a wheelchair for a period of time. I had a cane. That's when we found out I had fibromyalgia, because when you cannot move with fibro, which happens, I've been having a horrific flare up right now. Weather changes. It's not the same as rheumatoid arthritis, but people talk about, flare-ups with rheumatoid arthritis. I'm having the most horrific flare-up right now.
Oh my gosh.
It is so painful and so bad. And it's very bad. But I've noticed when I'm able to move my body more, it does help.
It does help.
Yeah. But there's all these things that they slap onto you if they can't figure out what else might be going on. They're like, oh, you probably have this. You know, it's like IBS when they know you don't have Crohn's or something else. They're like, oh, you have IBS. We're going to slap that on with you, you know? But it's definitely, I've found with a lot of things, moving the body helps to kind of, you know, but when you're just having to lie there and you're stagnant, like I think also now, so when I had my first laparoscopy, I was just supposed to lie there and not move my body right after surgery. And now they want you moving your body.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They don't, I mean, it's not, I think I remember telling you, it's not as intrusive as it seems.
Yeah.
It is. People should not be going around having surgeries. That is not what should be happening.
Yeah.
Right. There should be a better way to deal with this, but it's not a super intrusive surgery, but you can't work out like, cause where it is. So you wouldn't be able to strength train. I can't remember for how long. I shouldn't.
And that, Pilates, you know, it's funny. That was something that I remember, because I did do some research on that surgery, and I was just like, I don't want to not work out. And
well, it's the same thing. It's like it's the same thing. I like think they thought I had like tennis elbow or something, because I forget why. And they're like, well, you just don't move your body. I'm like, no, I'm a Pilates instructor.
Yeah, it's like part of me. It's what I do.
Like I can't just, and like even when the way that I teach, and Tiffany knows this, is I'm a very visual teacher. And like I love to show stuff if I can, or just moving around. Like I'm just like moving. You can see right now I'm moving my hands as I talk, but I can't not do that. Right. Yeah. And I think also because when we are so physical, taking for granted that we can move our bodies, and me having this chronic pain and other stuff going on now, that as I've gotten older, I definitely think it's getting worse, that not wanting to take things for granted.
Yeah.
Right.
And so. I think one thing that I want to touch on that like we both have kind of mentioned is that I want to make sure, like for anybody that's listening, like I never want somebody to feel bad for going the medicine route, because I think there is this push for like, I have been seeing it where like people are like demonizing birth control, like hormonal birth control. I can't with that, because here's the thing. Hormonal birth control has literally changed women's lives for the better. Yes. Like we would not be where we are today without it. And I just think that I just don't want anybody to feel bad and think that they've failed, or that, you know, because here's the thing, like we did try to do a little, like I'm working with a hormonal doctor, and she's like, hey, could we possibly experiment with like managing your endo without birth control? And I was just like,
No.
I need you to understand this. I cannot feel like this anymore. I was like,
Mhm.
maybe if we did it, because I did have to cycle off of it just for a little bit so I could get some testing done. So I did
Yeah.
cycle off of it for a hot second. I think it was like a max 2 to 3 months, and I could already feel the symptoms coming back. And I told her, I
Mhm.
was like, hey, I love your intention. I'm going back on it because we're not doing this, because I need to feel good every day. And I'm not going
Yeah.
to just pop some supplements because they're not going to do the job. They're not, you
No,
know?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. No, birth control is the only thing that's helping me.
Yeah,
Like it's the only thing. I
100%.
mean, and I'm about, because we did all my testing. I'm going back on it right now too, because we're not
Yeah.
having kids yet either. But no, it's the only thing that's helping me, and not at all saying, negating or trying to say that no, don't go on birth control, or even,
Yeah.
and even medicine, Western medicine in general. Not at
Yeah.
all
Because
trying
you
to
were
imply
saying
that
that
I'm on.
it's helped you with other
Yeah,
things that you're going
other things
through.
I'm on. Oh yeah. For me, my personal experience, I'm very sensitive to a lot of meds, so
Yes.
that's why I do try and I look
Yeah.
for like holistic or other approaches. But there are things that I am on that I could not do
Yeah.
things or be able, there's no other approach to it. So
Yeah.
I think, everyone's their own autonomous self. I say this whenever people come into my class. I think I always ask, when someone comes in, do you have anything going on with your body or anything you'd like to tell me about? Sometimes people won't even tell me, and then it's hard because in a class I notice something and they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I have this and this, and I'm
You're
like,
like,
you should have told me this in the beginning so I could modify for you. And then I always say after that, and you can tell sometimes if people standoffish, I'm that way because I have so many things going on with my body, but I come across as I am very strong.
yeah.
So I don't like to list everything I have. I usually just say I do have stuff going on. I tend to know how to modify, but please, if I'm doing something wrong,
Yeah.
please feel free to help me. I don't like to say I'm an instructor. That turns people off sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking to someone, I say, thank you so much for letting me know. I believe everyone is their own autonomous self. I'm sure you know your body.
Yes.
If you need help with anything, please let me know, or I can come over and help you, right?
Yeah.
Because
Love
everyone
it.
is their own person,
Yep.
right? My experiences with what I've had, even with what I've had with endometriosis or fibromyalgia or something like that, is not going to be the same as someone else. I think that's also, even talking about perimenopause, which we were just talking about, with what you were saying with you. I'm not in peri yet, but I have a lot of friends who are going through it. Their symptoms with what they're going in all are different. I mean, like, I think you're maybe only the second person that said they have like itchy ears.
Yeah. That's
I
so
think
funny.
more people things I've read about have had that. But I mean, I've had
Yeah.
people who've said all
It's so
different kinds of
different.
things.
Yeah, it is.
And so, you can't always go on by what you're reading online, or all
Totally.
the research you do is not necessarily going to be the same for you. So really just listen to your body. Don't let anyone else tell you, no, it's not this. And I think that over all the years with all my stuff, I mean, just don't let doctors also dictate with what you're feeling. I've had so many doctors tell me no, to the point where it's like almost, I haven't yet, but bringing my husband with me, I'm sure, if he came with me with certain things, they believe it. If he said, no, she's going through this. Do you know what I mean?
And it's
Which is
sad that
awful.
it's sad that even
In
has to be a
2025.
thing. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
but
this
I mean,
shouldn't be a thing.
don't let any person try to invalidate you.
Yeah.
And say, that's something that I cannot stress enough. And I'm so lucky that I have so much support through my parents, and of course through my husband now, or even just friends and stuff, or just knowing as just how I've been, or as I've gotten older, that my feelings and thoughts and what's going on with me are real. And I'm not going to even if they're a professional, I'm not going to let them invalidate me.
Yeah.
And say, no, it's just in your head.
Yep.
It's just in your head. 'Cause it's not. You know your body better than anybody else, right?
Yes.
So,
and I think
you just might have to
especially
find someone
people
else.
know their bodies well. Like, I know you know your body well. I'm very intuitive with my body. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I know my body. Like,
Been in
I
my body
know
my whole
it.
43 years. I've been in my body for 43 years. I know my body.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
have one final question that I ask all of my guests, and it's,
Mhm.
what advice would you share with your teenage self and teens today?
What advice would I share with my teenage self and teens today? I think what I would share with myself and also with teens today is, you're stronger than you think, and you don't need to rely on someone else, whether it be a significant other. For me, I would say a significant other, right? Love my husband. He's my everything. But I think that growing up, I felt that whether it was pressure from society or friends, that I needed to be in a relationship, I needed to have someone to lean on. And because of that, you know, always feeling like I had to be in a relationship or do something and you don't. You are so strong. I was so strong growing up. And so I feel that you are strong. You're amazing. You can do it. And this is not to say chosen family or your family and supportive friends you don't want to have. You don't want to just go and do it. Having support is great, but you don't need to rely on somebody else to validate in that sense. And this is kind of going back to like doctors and stuff too, right? You yourself, though, you do not need to have someone to validate you in terms of like a significant other or something like that. You can do it.
Yeah, I love that. As somebody who was always in a relationship since the age of 16, that is definitely something that I wish younger Tiffany knew, because I never really got to have that time to just be me and just to think that like, oh, I can do this on my own. So I love that advice, and I wish I had that advice when I was younger. So how can we support you, and where can we direct people?
Definitely, I would love for people to come check out the studio, especially if you're interested in Pilates. Come check out Evoken, and if you're kind of scared, come take a private with me at Evoken, or just come check out my Instagram. I'd love you to follow me on my Instagram. It's Koala Star Pilates. Koalas are my favorite animals, so it's KOALASTAR and then Pilates. So I'd love you to check that out. And if you're, like I said, too scared to hop in a class, come take a private with me. I really love teaching privates. That's probably what I'm more focused on now, because I've been teaching group classes and classes for so long. I love that kind of more individualized attention now. So yeah, come check out. If you're in the Los Angeles area, I do Zoom privates as well. So if you're not in the Los Angeles area and you're interested to check out Pilates or anything like that, just get in contact with me. And also, just in terms of in general, move your bodies as much as you can, whether it's just taking walks or, hopping into a class or working one-on-one with someone. I think that that's so important. And it really does release those endorphins and makes you feel so much better.
Yes. Second that. I second that. Definitely. Well, thanks to everyone for listening to the Pretty Little Lifters podcast. And I am so grateful for our guest, Ester, for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so wonderful. We love Tiffany. I love your podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I appreciate you. For those of you listening, we tried to record this a couple days ago, and I was having the worst tech issues. We tried 3 times, and then we had to call it. So this is the second attempt, and it went perfectly. So the stars aligned. We are good. But I appreciate you so much, and I'm so happy that we connected over Pilates. I appreciate you and your teaching style. And I'm going to share Ester's info in the show notes so you can support her and go take a Pilates class. And I will talk to you next episode. Bye.
Thank you.